Starting? Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ramon Alemanya. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Business. Welcome on behalf of the Faculty of Economics and Business. Welcome to this school, to the University of Barcelona, to Barcelona. Welcome everyone. My name is Ramon. A little delay between the stream. Again? Yeah? Okay. So welcome everyone. I'm Ramon Alemany, the Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Business. Welcome to the University of Barcelona. Welcome to this School of Economics and Business at the University of Barcelona. I'm very happy to be here today. Difficult times because of the COVID pandemics, but thanks to the great efforts of Luis and his team, the seminar it will be possible during these 3 days. So welcome you all. Here is Per Almeda, Director of the Institute Ramon Llull, Marta Martins, Coordinator of the Stronger Peripheries, and Luis Bonet, you know everyone, Luis Bonet, a very, very, very important person here in the University of Barcelona around the cultural programs with a long story of devoted work, hard work to this issue. So just give the turn of the floor to and he will be the official opener of the seminar. Thank you, Pere.
Moltes gràcies, Degà. Molt bona tarda. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in these opening words of this seminar. I'm very pleased to be here today, this afternoon, in my university and share with you some ideas and thoughts on behalf of the Institute Ramon Llull on some of the issues that you will discuss during the following days. In these times of many uncertainties, debating around culture, it can be at the same time a privilege and also a shelter from which to look upon today's world. Culture is always the projection of an imaginary and a reality of a certain social, economic, and political space. Nevertheless, culture is a crucial element of power. It is part of the political discourse. I spend hours with my political science students here at the university debating around the Marxist analysis that states that dominant culture is the culture of the ruling class, where the role of the elites exercises control and influence over the circulation of ideas and the prevailing ideology that wants to legitimize social inequalities and the status quo. It is a fact that there are cultures that have more power than others, that there are hegemonic and non-hegemonic cultures. But we also know that this game of counterweights always responds to a multi-dimensional dynamics that cannot be constrained by determinism. The logic of the market tends to homogenize countries and cultures, and too often ignore diversity, which in many times it considers to be minimized. As Catalans, we know a lot about it. But cultures have the right and the duty to be represented in the global world. And smaller cultures can counterbalance the market tendency to minorize identities and particularities. Concepts such as periphery and center referred to culture are well used to describe the dynamics in today's world. But in times with so many shifting paradigms going on, nothing stays stable under the sky. We have seen how these pandemic times have increased against the importance and role of state powers, and also drive concentrations of power among the big giant tech and digital companies with huge impact over our cultures. It is in this midst of this dynamic landscape where peripheric cultures are relevant to question the mainstream views and give a chance to hear different voices. The narrative of the periphery, the voices of smaller cultures, are essentials to take into account vital expressions of our shared conflicts and needs. In this sense, the Institut Ramon Llull, the institution responsible to bring Catalan culture abroad, plays a sensitive role to find spaces and opportunities to give to Catalan writers or visual and performing artists the chance to present and interact with the main cultural and artistic debates. In these days, we are promoting the debate to reorient and focus our cultural discourse towards the major issues of global concern: climate change, rise of authoritarianism, gender issues and the feminist perspective, technological change, energy transitions, and how a small culture can dialogue with remarkable contributions on many of these debates. We want to be recognized not by only by our own identity, but for the value of the content we provide in these major debates that are part of the global agenda. We are and we want to be able to be a full-fledged agent in this global conversation. The periphery, understood as a sum of non-hegemonic cultures, must be able to contribute with its own point of view, adding diversity and enriching the debate. In this sense, our institute, l'Institut Ramon Llull, is a successful project. We can say that for the last 20 years, we have helped the vast majority of Catalan-speaking authors, creators, and artists who have transcended our national sphere. If you look at the generation of our Catalan creators over the last 20 years, to a large extent, they have all passed through the Institute or collaborated in one way or another with us. At the cultural level, we have experience balancing between disseminating excellence and creating spaces for new voices. Through our programs, the Institute has made possible the development of cultural policies that before its existence had not had an ideal framework. It has created spaces and possibilities giving voice to established artists and also emerging creators. It can be said that we have been a core tool of the Catalan language and cultures, but we are living, as you know, very complex times. But the Institute wants to be a part and work together with these complexities. Our political and social reality and also our governments make our institution a sum of complexities, an organization that promotes internationalization through collaboration between various sub-state bodies, municipalities, ministries, governments, universities, fairs, festivals, and so on. Our experience gained in managing these complexities allow us to adapt and survive in an accelerated world where the only constant is temporality and change. We are experts in creating dialogue between diverse realities. Today, in times of polarization, the value of this dialogue is more necessary and relevant than ever. Now that we are going, as we were commenting, we are going to celebrate our 20th anniversary of our institution, and we are living in the middle of both a pandemic and a digital revolution. So we need to rethink what it means to interact and bring small cultures abroad. For this purpose, I would like to end these opening words addressing some questions to the panelists and participants of this seminar that could be discussed during the next interesting seminars. We would love to know your vision on what it means to internationalize peripheral culture. What cultural diplomacy means for you today? What are your views on the role of institutions like ours in these new scenarios? How can we continue to be relevant in the midst of this changing ecosystem that has more and more liquid cultural references? One other question, how can we establish spaces for conversation, knowledge, and excellence between peripheral organizations, but still want to be talking face to face with the center or with the main debates and institutions? How is to be decentralized in times of digital imperialism, where hegemonic cultures capitalize their influence by creating global cultural products? We will love to hear your opinions about it, and we are looking forward to learning from all of you, all of your discussions that you'll celebrate during these days. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you all. Thank you to the University of Barcelona for hosting this first seminar of the Stronger Peripheries project. Thanks to Luis, Jada, Juan, and the team of the University of Barcelona for making this possible in these complex and hard times that we are living. And thanks to you all for being here and to participate in the conversations that I believe will be interesting conversation that we'll have in the following days. Stronger Peripheries is a 4-year project funded by the Creative Europe program, and it's the first project of the Southern Coalition, an initiative aimed at strengthening arts and culture in Southern European countries, especially focusing on participatory approaches and capacity building. It gathers 14 organizations from 10 countries: Portugal, Catalonia, Slovenia, Croatia, Romania, Italy, France, Greece, Hungary, and Serbia, all to some extent identifying with the Southern Europe, all committed to foster local community engagement in the arts, and all devoted to overcoming the obstacles in their specific contexts by increasing mutual cooperation. Here in Southern Coalition, South is mainly a cultural and political concept instead of a geographical one. It refers to those affected by political and economic crises, interested in collaborative strategies based on a set of common values and needs that derive specifically from working in the peripheries. Although in different ways, the organizations involved in this project share common challenge: unstable cultural policy contexts, vulnerable ecosystems in which art organizations cope with less funding, face bureaucratic obstacles, and are generally severely under-resourced for the work they carry out. General need for professional training and capacity building schemes that enhance sustainability in the sector. A lack of knowledge of audience needs that results in low audience numbers, shrinking of funds for artistic production, and a sense of being peripheral with distinct implications in different cases, because a country is a small economy, because of their geopolitical situation, or because they work in rural areas or in territories marked by strong inequalities. To act on these problems and needs, Southern Coalition has identified 3 main areas of action to be tackled in the project Stronger Peripheries: collaborative strategies, capacity building, and cultural policies. Collaborative strategies will mean to increase collaboration and professional opportunities for artists and cultural operators from the peripheral South, to develop innovative methodologies of collaborative art management and art practices, and to connect Southern Coalition with other European cultural organizations. Capacity building in Stronger Peripheries will mean to increase skills of art professionals and artists in the fields of art management and audience development, to increase competence and advocacy skills of cultural operators in the development of inclusive cultural policy models. And cultural policy will mean to raise awareness for the particularities of the models of cultural policy in the periphery in relation to the cultural policy models in the center, to advocate for the social value of art and the importance of inclusive and participatory artistic practices in social cohesion. So in particular, until 2024, Stronger Peripheries will co-produce 12 new performances from artists residents in 10 countries, following a specific collaboration methodology that we call Tandem, through 48 research and creative residencies engaging local hosting communities. Stronger Peripheries will promote an extensive training program composed by 2 seminars and 19 workshops tackling contemporary performing arts, expanding partners' curatorial knowledge, cultural mediation, quality and artistic residencies, monitoring and evaluation, inclusive policymaking, arts management, and fair international cooperation. Stronger Peripheries intends to promote good practices in management and assessment of cultural projects by developing new methodologies and toolkits for monitoring and analyzing audiences and measuring the impact of participatory art practices. Also, Stronger Peripheries will organize 2 conferences and will publish a book questioning and discussing the concept of South and periphery and raise awareness of the specificities of the policies and the practices in these contexts. Questioning and discussing peripheries is a common conceptual framework of our artistic and cultural work. Our project gathers cities and villages with different sizes, places in which regular contemporary cultural programming, European cooperation projects, and international mobility are yet big challenge. This project can be seen as an opportunity to renegotiate our identities, our concepts of periphery as a state of mind. It is based on the assumption that we can redefine our collective identities through culture, and better yet, through the empowering confluence of cultural difference. Above all, Stronger Peripheries is a proposal for dialogue. Through actively engaging in cultural projects at European level, by learning about each other's cultural policy and artistic scene contexts, we have the chance to render obsolete some or false and heavy dichotomies. So this is also the purpose of the seminar and for the conversation that we'll have together on the following days. So Luis.
Thank you very much, Ramon, Vera, Marta. It's a great pleasure to have them here, but as well, it's a great pleasure to have all of you, because in these moments where there are so many uncertainties, just the idea to be here, to see this room, which is not empty. It's plenty of people who are strong enough to decide to take part of a face-to-face event, because this is probably part of the aim of our project and the aim of the seminar. The idea that we need to be stronger, and the way to be stronger is not to be afraid. And not being afraid means, of course, to measure risk. Risk exists, but at the same time, the capacity to try to change things. The title of the seminar, Toward Fairer Cultural International Cooperation, tries to talk about this. We know that it's very difficult to be fair, but our idea, our goal is try to walk in this direction, to go towards this direction. And what we are proposing you during these 3 days is step by step, going from the diagnosis to proposing ideas and strategies that could be useful for us in order to change our own behavior, to change the behavior of our colleagues around, and try to influence as well policymakers. And that's a little bit why, if you analyze the program, there is this step-by-step approach. And we decided to start with this first roundtable, the one that will start just now, opening our arms to colleagues from Latin America, not only for Europeans, not only from people from the south of Europe, but we thought that Barcelona was a good place for opening the world to Latin American operators, cultural operators, who are working with European partners, and that they can explain us their vision, their experience, and through that, we could do something which is very important. It's part in the core of the project, which is knowing better ourselves is the best way to create new links, to be synergic, to create networks. This is the goal. And we also wanted not only to be with Latin American, but our idea was to have with us Milena Dragicevic. She's not with us. You will see her by video. Because Milena, the idea, and you will listen her later, was to explain that these testimonies from Latin America can be at the same time analyzed with testimonies coming from Eastern Europe, from the southern rim of the Mediterranean, from India and Asian areas, all areas that she had been working with. So this idea that there are many south, there are many peripheries. As you will see, the next session is open to other fields, not the performing arts field, but other fields. How is the debate in the field of center and periphery, in the field of literature, in the publishing world? What is happening? Why there are, what we are translating mainly from major language and not from minor language? So just to analyze what is happening in different fields. So in the field of literature, in the field of urban art, in the field of gaming, etc., etc. So that's a little bit. And tomorrow we will just go deeper on the analysis of the normal strategies, the role of fairs, the main trade place, where we buy and we sell, when we go there in order to look interesting ideas, proposals, artists, proposals, and performances. At the same time, the artistic residences, which is all one of our areas of working and analyzing. So how we decide when we create and we send invitations from our own festivals, from our own theaters on artistic residencies. So try to analyze these kind of things. This is as well part of the work. And in the afternoon, we fly by local railway system to the periphery of a metropolitan area. And we will use not private bus. We will use public transportation. This is the way that normal people do this transfer from the center of the metropolitan area to the periphery of the metropolitan area. And because one of our partners is Transversal, the network Transversal, and there is this network of theaters in all Catalonia, well, we decided to choose one of the closest places. So Granollers is not very far, but we are going to Granollers. Our idea was to finish this wonderful day in a theater, watching a fantastic performance, but as you know, there were restrictions on the number of people, and because we were one of the last to buy the tickets, they are just returning us the money, but we won't be able to see the performance. But in any case, that means that we will have time to have a good dinner with friends and colleagues and discuss, which is also a fantastic issue and a need of this kind of face-to-face conferences. And on Friday we have this idea of opening. So we will have the General Secretary of IETM, so the European network, and the other guest people from a couple of private foundations who are doing a lot of lobbying in relation to how to influence a new agenda for international cultural relations at the European level. And at the same time, the vision of a very interesting cultural manager, former general director of the Catalan government, someone who is always giving us the idea how digitalization is changing things, because he's very strong on that, but at the same time, someone who had the responsibility of granting and to supporting this kind of relations. And finally, we have these two different moments of breakdown sessions, one tomorrow, the other one on Friday. The first one is in a small groups of around 10 people each group. We will discuss in the first one, the diagnosis. And in the second one, our goal will be to build alternative, to give new ideas that could influence ourselves, policymakers, and so on. So that's a little bit activity. And we will finish at the end of Friday morning with a synthetic approach. We have Vania Rodriguez with us. She's just taking notes all the time. Just her difficult role will be to synthesize everything we have been said. At the same time, we have people who is watching us through our YouTube channel, and we have as well the Zoom working. So I hope we won't have too many problems between two technologies working together, because as you know, so some of the people couldn't come in the last minute. So in order to give them the voice, we are as well working with these two platforms. So I apologize for all the inconveniences of the restrictions, of the technical issues that we have to improvise a little bit in every single moment, but I wish you a wonderful stay with us. I hope at the end of these 3 days, you will be a little bit more richer in terms of experience, context, and thoughts. So thank you very much. And I propose just to go directly to the next roundtable because time is going on. We are not online, that's a problem. Online meetings start on time. Face-to-face, never. So welcome to real life. Thank you.
No. Hola, buen día, buena tarde. Welcome everyone again, and thank you for being here today in person and online. First, I would like to thank all the organizers for promoting this kind of seminars and experiences, even when it's so difficult on planning in these times. And thank you, of course, for giving me the opportunity to share this session today with all of you and these amazing panelists and others from home. My name is Aina Joanet. I go by she, her. I work as a performing arts producer at Nau Ivanov, that is a residency space here in Barcelona. And I also work as a freelancer with independent performing arts companies. I will be the moderator on this first session, and I would like to introduce you Diego Celorio, Juan Pablo Vergara, and Maria Rios, that hopefully will join us online. And I will dialogue with them through the proposed theme that brings us here today, that is Latin American trajectories in a global South perspective. Before they can introduce themselves deeply, I would like to mention, as already you did before, that today Milena Dragicevic, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry. She unfortunately won't be able to join us today due to health reasons. She comes from the University of Arts of Belgrade. And anyway, I would like to thank her for being so thoughtful these days, and present despite the situation. I'm not sure if she's finally listening to us, but if she does, I really hope that you feel better soon and that we can meet each other in person in the future. As you probably know, this panel is part of the global seminar towards fairer cultural international cooperation, Visions from the Peripheries. And we asked Milena to maybe share with us some topics, some issues in this general framework to contextualize a bit from her expertise and on this. And I planned these following questions for her to prepare the intervention. I asked, what means fairer in this context? Why or which cultural international cooperation projects are relevant? What peripheries or global South include or are? From here, I'd like to, if it's possible, to see a video that Milena prepared in order to be somehow here today with us. Let's wait for technology to be ready.
Today, I would like to tell you a plaidoyer for a new ethics in international cultural cooperation. I would like to advocate a fair practice, a different practice in cultural field. I would like to advocate that all policymakers, artists, and cultural operators, as reflective practitioners, follow the path less traveled, the path that is not the path from global north leading to global south, the path that is not speaking that much about art markets, but about enlarging public role of culture, recognition of public interest in culture, acknowledging the importance, of course, of human rights, of freedom, of peace, advocating that all the values that are officially part of European public space, but also allowing to hear the other, to participate with the other equally in developing ideas for projects, ideas for collaboration, and recognizing right to otherness, right to differentness, not only within the global south, but also within the marginal and subaltern communities of the global north, advocating for civic imagination, creativity, difference. And coming from European self-colonized semi-periphery, because there are even stronger European peripheries. Think about Moldova, Transnistria that no one is speaking anymore about, or Caucasus mentioned only when there is a war threat or something like that, All of us from semi-peripheries enjoyed Western or global North patronizing, and very quickly we gave up everything we created by ourselves. Self-governance, for example, we in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, equal cultural cooperation developed within non-aligned world, culture as a public good, commons, doing things in a community. Our cooperatives as a word, zadruga, even entered in economic theory, but it's completely lost, especially in cultural sphere, as it was not fashionable, not modern, not Western. So what we accepted during the transition process, it was not only a new vocabulary, it were new values, same throughout the world, from Serbia, for example, to Cambodia. Art market as a solution. Later came art for social change. It sounded much better. It sounded really like our former socialist values. But then came creative cities, creative hubs as a solution for everything. And our so-called folk people's university changed their names to have more modern, more fashionable ones. Entrepreneurialism was even considered as so-called expanded professionalism for artists, obligation to teach. It's not only for us managers, it's also the value to be transmitted to artists from Mali, for example, in Africa, to Serbia, to Cambodia, and so on. Finally, British Council came up, not anymore with this hubs, markets, selling, and entrepreneurialism. It came with a green agenda. And yes, I was moderating recently a session linking British cultural operators with South Asian cultural operators. You might ask, why me moderating session about Southeast Asia? Because working for quite a long time in Cambodia, in different countries of the region, I could see what they really need, but what they really do not need are imposition of our global north values, so accepted without thinking, without reflection from us, coming from semi-peripheries, where I am in regarding Latin America too, because they speak one of the most important world languages. They share basically European culture, but they are, however, not in the mainstreams of the communication. And yes, what is influencing us more than anything else in processes of cultural collaboration are the agenda of international organizations that are deciding what they are going to fund or what they are not going to fund. And their values are values of contemporary society, which is society of consumption, society of which needs then middle class, society of spectacle, so everything is spectacular. Look, the opening of European cultural capital of Novi Sad, it's not different than any other opening of any other festival, European cultural capital, and so on. It's society of spectacle, even during pandemics. It's a society of success ideology, of individual success ideology. It's not of community success. Society of competitiveness, entrepreneurialism, in a sense, the most rudimentary of the term, society of dystopia, of normatives and standards. Everything, even in cultural management, should be measurable, should be accountable. So it even sounds relaxing, Bauman theory of liquid times, of society of uncertainty, taking in account what cultural collaboration dilemmas we have to face every day. Does any of this dilemma means a fair practice? Not really, because national interest is usually predominating this international solidarity. Wish to know the other is only if we can later commercialize this knowledge of knowing the other. It's more about influence of the other through cultural diplomacy, which is a subtle method of political influence. So what is more important? Cultural interest, but are these cultural interests genuine cultural interests, or they are our career interests developed within society of success or national prestige, rayonnement culturel, selling our ideas and our values, or just wish to better position our country? What does it really mean? Rayonnement culturel, Louvre in Abu Dhabi. Is that different from Bolshoi once upon a time around the world? Or what to say about creative industry concept of selling abroad, selling throughout the world cultural goods and cultural products, and how Labour government of UK succeeded in selling that idea of creative industry, of creative city throughout the world? Can we find a real, genuine artistic interest, artistic curiosity, or empathy, a culture of care, culture of hospitality, and culture of solidarity? And in this sense, I really recognize different importance of us, of civil society as citizens diplomacy, what we can contribute, decolonizing cultural cooperation, being subversive even within official frameworks, even programs that we appreciate, such as Creative Europe. But can we be subversive even within this program and this project to build much more fair practice, to introduce different rhythms of inclusion and exclusion of those that are already far privileged? So what are, and that I would like to finish with, what are our responsibilities? Responsibilities of global North countries, but what about South of the global North, that used to be a colonizer, that belongs to Southern cultural hemisphere geographically, but culturally to global North? Or what are responsibility to us, semi-peripheries, that are still extremely privileged? And key question is to ask each of us, am I privileged? Thus, I would just like to underline importance of such artists, sometimes coming from the global North, like Johann Gertz with his counter monuments, lobbying for a different culture of memory of global North, sometimes coming from a global South that want to change situations, that want to participate in equal manner. And that's what our approach should be about: fair collaboration, strategic vision in this fair collaboration that will help us to really bring something to other regions of the world, much more deprivileged. That was the reason I went to Cambodia. I went to Mali to learn from them, to get the inspiration. So for me, I learned more about entrepreneurship, learning about Maya entrepreneurship or about Ubuntu. So Pan-Africanism or specificity of different Africanism might be more revelatory for my approach in envisaging, in conceptualizing project of cultural collaboration, then a great, fantastic ideas of the global North fighting climate change, warming, introducing green agendas, gender issues from their own standpoint. Let's try to envisage what we can do by integrating knowledge coming to us from the South and from the different marginal borders, fighting even something that cultural operators of the global North do not even remark. For example, how many vaccinated people from Africa, from European peripheries, from Latin America, and so on, cannot participate even on UNESCO summit in February. Why? Because they are vaccinated with the wrong vaccines, Russian or Chinese. I haven't heard anyone in France objecting the decision of their government that people with Russian vaccines cannot enter the country, or anyone in Germany protesting against the decision of their government that no one with Chinese vaccine can enter the country. All of that is preventing cultural collaboration, a real participation and inclusion, and our voice have to be heard.
Thank you, Milena. From home to... I think it's really inspiring, and I'm sure that with our panelists, we can go further some of these topics that she presented. And now I'm with you. We have Diego Celorio from the National Autonomous University of Mexico and Juan Pablo Vergara from the Chilean Pavilion of the Venice Biennale. And I think Maria Rios from Conectats Cooperativa is trying to enter the Zoom session. Let's see if she can hear us. Give us a moment. Hello, Maria. Can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. Hello, everyone.
Thank you, Maria. If it's okay for the three of you, I will suggest that now we come to talk about what brings here today, that is this topic of Latin American trajectories in the Global South perspective. I would like for you to share with the audience about 5-8 minutes about your own professional experience, focusing maybe on that projects that relates Latin America with Europe. If it's okay for you, I'd say we go first with Diego, then with Maria online, and finally with Juan Pablo. And nothing more. The floor is yours, Diego.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah. Well, hello. I'm very glad to be here today and very grateful with the University of Barcelona for the invitation. I'll try to introduce myself, and I'm going to try to let you know what brings me here and what institution I represent and what kind of projects, although they are not specialized in peripheries, but as you will see, they have something to do with it, or I think they have. Well, I'm starting that I'm Mexican, and I have been working for a long time now in cultural affairs in Spain, many of Spain's regions. First here in Catalonia at the Consulate General of Mexico in this great city of Barcelona, which was one of my best experiences in life, I must say. And for the past 8 years, I have been working at the Foreign Office of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, based in Madrid. We are a small office, especially compared with the size and the dimension of the National Autonomous University of Mexico. I'm going to call it UNAM in short. UNAM is a very big university. We're a small office, and we link here the interest in projects, academic projects, cultural projects and alliances regarding language and pan-Hispanic cultural projection from the UNAM with Spanish institutions. So over the last 20 years, I've had the opportunity to be involved in many different kind of cultural projects, especially between Mexico and Spain. And I must say that even there 20 years, I'm still learning a lot. And when I was asked about my personal experience in international cultural cooperation in terms of global North and global South perspective, or in terms of peripheries, my first thoughts had to do with the many, many Norths and Souths that exist beyond this main general economic division of the world. As we all know, many of our countries in Latin America deal constantly and every day with a great amount of, let's call it, local North-South situations regarding economic, social, geographic, ethnic, political, religious, linguistic, or gender aspects, just to mention some of them. So the institution I work for, the UNAM, it's a public institution that plays a very important role in this context I'm describing to you, pursuing social and economic equality for the Mexican society. I must say it's a very prestigious university. It's also usually ranked between the top 100 university of the world, but it's really far away of being an elitist institution, despite these rankings and what that usually means in other countries. So in fact, it's quite the opposite of being elitistic. It's a national example of diversity that assumes in first place and reflects the complexity of Mexico, of my country. And one of its main goals, it's precisely to try to reduce asymmetries and to be a reference place of plurality, where all social classes, all territorial or ethnic origins or backgrounds, all political positions, and in fact, all points of view are not only welcome, but really encouraged. This includes, of course, the artistic and the cultural community, because UNAM, in addition of its activities regarding academic and research duties, represents a very important cultural engine for the country. And one of the most important strategies it has developed for the success of this task is a very rich and ambitious cultural project. And this project transcends the boundaries of the university itself and involves government and involves many national and some international players as well. Between them or among them, many European cultural institutes and of course the unique cluster in Mexico. Well, the objective of this cultural project I'm talking is not based only on making the benefits of art and culture available to society as a cultural right, but on using culture as a fundamental tool to address the asymmetries and many of the great challenges that we all share in these times. I think it's important to explain to you this background, because all this in sort of way explains or implies that our job in cultural cooperation and let's call it tension management, which is also one of the subjects of this Congress, starts back home with our domestic North and South complexity. And this certainly influences our cultural interaction with the other countries and with those other countries' own realities. I'm sure, for example, that my colleagues at UNAM's offices in other countries have all very different experiences, like the ones I have, because the country, in this case, the country I work with is it's Spain, and I think Mexico and Spain they have a very, very peculiar relationship regarding global North and global South due to 500 years of shared history. There might be asymmetries and tensions between both countries, of course they are, but the common ground we share is extremely fertile, and that's my experience. No? And in this experience, the cultural field is precisely a privileged place to work at least some of these tensions, of some of these northern-south tensions we're talking about. I'm thinking, for example, about the long-lasting tension regarding Eurocentric or colonial perspective from some sectors, or the tension regarding a historic monopoly of the Spanish language, or this frequent trend by certain people or certain institutes, the less fortunately, of simplifying or stereotyping the complex realities of the global South. Situations like this that I have just described, I think seriously hinder the cultural cooperation between both countries and between any country. So in our office at UNAM Spain, and at our very small scale and our limited capacities, remember we're a small office, one of our goals in the cultural cooperation context is to address not only this tension or these possible asymmetries between Mexico and Spain, which we do, but also address through culture, those global challenges that concern all us around the world, like violence, populism, fake news, human rights, migration, feminism, enhancement. And in these terms, and just to finish and try to wrap up these thoughts, I must say that in general, my personal experience, that's what I was asked about, my personal experience, have been very, very positive at Spain. I think we have been able to develop several cultural projects that enhance something I consider of great, the most important, which is mutual knowledge. I mean, mutual knowledge leads into some other things like empathy that Milena just commented, respect and mutual enrichment, which I think it's the true cultural cooperation. And we try with these activities we do to in some way fill each other gaps, because I'm sure every country lacks something, but every country and all of them have at the same time a lot to offer. So that's why we try to focus. Probably later we can talk about some examples, but and I mean these examples will have to do with this idea that sometimes we might want to move the centers to the peripheries, no? And if you want later, if there's interest and time, we can talk about that in the discussion that will take place.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Diego. I would like to go, before going deeper to some of the things you've shared, I'd like to go with Maria. First of all, how are you feeling, Maria?
Hi, Aina. I'm feeling good. I just tested positive this morning, and it was very surprised because I'm feeling good. So I was very excited to meet you in person, but I had to be present at the screen. So I'm sorry. Thank you for the efforts also to help me participating in the conversation. So I will start introducing myself also. I am Maria Rios. I am from Bogota, Colombia. I studied literature in Bogota, in the Universidad de los Andes, and have a master's degree in publishing and management of publishing projects from the Universidad Pompeu Fabra here in Barcelona. I've been living here for 6 years already, and I've been working at Conectats Cooperativas since 2017 as coordinator and manager of different projects with social impact. And today, I will talk about the experience of Conectats Cooperativa, where I work, which also it has not developed many international cooperation projects. It works in the territory of Barcelona with communities of people from different origins of the Global South. From the beginning, we are deeply connected with Latin America because since the cooperative foundation in 2009, people from Colombia, Argentina, El Salvador, Mexico have been working in developing activities that question and problematize our relationship with Latin America and with this territory. It's good to know that Conectats also was born as a local TV program that showed the intercultural reality of Latin Americans in Barcelona by interviewing people, Latin American people. And then we started to develop educational and cultural projects here. I will talk about briefly of some of these projects, and then I will talk about one that I think that it's more illustrative, and it's the one we have developed the last years. So we have one project called Film Festival, in which we collaborate with Docs MX, the documentary film festival of Mexico City. In this project, young people from high schools in Barcelona received training in cultural management with a practical approach that culminates in the production of a film exhibition. So during almost 4 months, the young people visualize and discuss short films that portray realities of social inequality in the global north and the global south, and bring to the table the issue of human rights violations. So after this, they finally create a program for this film exhibition that they produce entirely by themselves. At this moment, we are developing a project that was born from this initiative, this film festival, and it consists on involving students of the Master in Cultural Management of the University of Barcelona in the development of a training in community cultural management. This training is addressed to migrants in Barcelona, and the objective is to promote the active cultural participation of people from the Global South in the cultural circuit of the city. So we are now starting the project, and its first version will be developed throughout this year. We also had another experience called Barcelona San Salvador. This was a project carried out in 2012 to promote exchange around cultural entrepreneurships between young people from Barcelona and Salvador. And this is San Salvador, sorry. The aim was establishing an effective two-way contact. So we created the Barcelona San Salvador website, which was an online communication tool that allowed to know the work of young people from both cities. It also promoted the exchange between them and disseminated their ideas and opinions on the key issues of the project. And as part of the exchange process, a group of young people from each city made a trip. People from Barcelona went to San Salvador, and people from San Salvador came to Barcelona to lay the foundations for this collaboration and share the activities they developed together. But today, as I said, I would like to focus this conversation on a project that we have been developing since 2017, and with my colleague Diego Salazar, we have coordinated and created this project. I think it will bring to the table more ideas about this subject. So the project is called En Palabras, Relatos Migrantes. And it was born when looking for some migration data. We found that the Latin American exodus is nowadays the most invisible refugee crisis today. So since 2012, the application for international protection has doubled every year. In 2019, almost a total of 120,000 applications were registered here in Spain. And 77 of the total came from 6 Latin American countries: Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Peru. And that year, Spain only accorded international protection to 5% of these applications. But that was only it is only the tip of the iceberg, because these numbers only consider people who have decided to undergo the asylum claiming procedure, which can last about 4 years. So also we have the problem that the media coverage is almost non-existent, because the South American exodus doesn't produce images that attract the attention of the population. The trips are made by plane and in an apparent normality, and the tragedies remain in the countries of origin. So we are an old known migration in Spain, and there is a cultural proximity, and we are a minor problem in contrast to the imaginary built around other migrations. This apparent social acceptance creates a spiral of silence in Latin American people here, based on the belief that for us, things are not so bad here in Spain, that with a little effort, we will end up getting our papers and finding a place to live. But it goes, no? So it goes, that's why thousands of people are silencing and annulling the possibility of going through those pains that in many cases have mental health effects. So we have proposed to invite Latin American writers to guide the personal writing of these stories behind all these numbers. No? We have found that there was an individual need to order the migration experiences, to share those memories and achieve a collective consciousness, and also to connect us with the city through culture, making this problem visible. We respond to 4 main objectives with this project. The first one is strengthening self-confidence and personal development. The second one is to develop organizational skills, community cooperation, and collective empowerment. The third is to expand social capital of migrants. And the fourth is to make the problem visible and to ensure the recognition of the right to asylum and the right to migrate. So I don't know if I'm okay. Wait. Is it? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you, Maria.
Okay. So what we have done so far, so we have carried out 8 collaborative writing processes already. 140 people have participated directly. We have created more than 4,000 texts about the migration experiences. We've made public presentation, open readings, a book publication, and a creative writing contest. And we have an online magazine and a communication strategy. So with all of this, with all this that I've just said, and from the position of Conectados Cooperativa, I think that we can bring to the table the following ideas. No? The first one is like we want to rename and say in capital letters that there is an indisputable inequality in the North-South relations, and it is an evidence that permeates the development of cultural action. The second one a second idea that I want to highlight, there is no recognition of cultural contribution coming from the global south, or if there is, it is clearly very deficient nowadays. With this in mind, we try to work for from Conectats Cooperativa, we try to work for a more equal relationship between the North and the global South in terms of cultural relations, promoting greater recognition of the cultural contributions of migrants in this territory, right? We believe that culture is a tool for social participation, is a vital importance for communities that are suffering the institutional, social, and structural violence of unequal relations between the North and the global South. In this case, I'm talking about migrants living in the global North. And it's a very important tool for us to be able to structure a response and empower ourselves. I think that's my presentation, my initial presentation, and we can talk about a little bit more later, right?
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. Now it's the turn of Juan Pablo Vergara. Thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the organization. Again, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's really important to have 3 Latin Americans in this table. I think it's a really good gesture and a good practice from the organization. Well, I'm going to keep it brief since we want to open the discussion after. I'm an arts manager from Chile. I've been working both in the public sector and the private sector as well. I started working almost 12 years ago at the Ministry of Culture, which was then the National Arts Council at the Foreign Affairs Unit, where I was in charge of design and visual arts. So pretty much my work consisted in going to abroad for national pavilions and big events abroad. There I had the luck to work in the National Pavilion at the Design Biennial of London in 2016. I also worked at the Venice Biennale in 2015. I was in charge of the national invitation to the book fair of Guadalajara, the field in 2012, which was an amazing experience as well, among other big events. And then I started working at Fundación Mar Adentro, which is totally different. It was a small foundation owned by a family that were very aware about arts and ecology. So it was an amazing experience. So we had the luck to actually work with scientists and artists at the same level, which really opened up my mind about this whole science and arts relation that we usually talk about, but it's usually more from the arts and not the science. And in here it was really from one side to the other. And recently, well, we applied to the national contest to represent the National Pavilion at the Venice Biennale, along with curator Camila Marambio, which we won. So I had to quit, and now I'm in charge of the National Pavilion, which has been very complex but very interesting, because it's a pavilion that doesn't have a main figure as an artist as a main figure. It's a totally transversal pavilion, interdisciplinary, where we're working with architects, designers, scientists, myself. So it's been really interesting, because usually the arts manager are in charge of everything, working in the Excel spreadsheet and buying tickets and making sure everything's fine. But I can be part of the creative process, which is really amazing for myself. And regarding cooperation between Chile, in my case, and Europe, it's always been very present, because Chile has a very precarious, is that the word for precario? Precarious cultural cultural fundings and cultural institutions, since we just have a Ministry of Culture from 5 years, which is not that much. It used to be an arts council before. And before that, we had a dictatorship government that lasted more than 11 years. And during those years, the binational institutions such as the French Institute or the Italian Institute or the Spanish Institute play a really important role, because they were pretty much the only spaces where you could get related to the arts in a legal way. Everything was underground. Just as an example, for example, the new media Biennale started as an encounter of video art in the early 80s in a hidden spot in the French Institute, and now it's the major arts biennial in Chile, just because of that, because it lasted, because it could happen during the dictatorship government. So it's something very logical for us, and very logical in a way that the only way to do the arts for us is to cooperate. And since we are very far away in the world, it's the only way to go outside. It's to cooperate and have this relationship with countries abroad.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. Now I propose them to dedicate some minutes to exchange some ideas from one to each other, to bring some topics that can be more discussed. I have a lot of things that would like to share, maybe something that we've been talking about, like 2 or 3 things that we've been talking about earlier before. It was about this idea of having North and South even inside these peripheries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are some examples that you can share with us, especially you were telling us about UNAM. Also, I sent you some topics, and then maybe you can briefly share some examples.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this idea of the networks, the importance of the networks, and also this idea of the values that commonly share these international projects. From here, I don't know if you have, we are running out of time because we started a little bit late, but I would like to be a bit brief in order to open a mic for the participants if anyone can share any thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to...
Sure, I can start. Well, as Diego was mentioning before, there's not a peripheric, and as Milena said, let's clap for Milena. It was an amazing,
Yes.
an amazing speech. There's peripherics everywhere. It's not the Europe being the center, or America as in United States being the center, or the North being the center. There's peripheries everywhere. And in my case, I could say I'm the most peripheric one from here. I'm all the way down south in South America. And there's still little peripheries everywhere, and we don't know their heritage. We don't know their cultures. It's little towns, and everything. It's concentrated in Santiago, which is the capital, and all the big institutions are there. So I can say I don't find myself peripheric living in Santiago, since there's way more peripheric places. That's a main thought, to keep in mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the peripheries perimeter sometimes overlap. I mean, there's not always a center and the perfect and the perfect boundary. No? So what I was talking about is like those north and south we have every day at our countries. But I mean, it's really easy to identify them in our countries. I think Maria said something very interesting, how to work from the south to the north. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I mean, if we have an open mind to what a periphery is and what you just said, and we were discussing, one way of cooperating is bringing our own centers to those spaces that might be not an economic, but other kind of peripheries, sorry, at the north. And that's a way to collaborate. And I think that it's important to do it in the main themes and subjects we were talking. Maria was talking about migration. I said violence, feminism. I mean, and that's something we want to try. You can't, I think you can't talk about migration or borders or human rights if you judge that just from this side of the wall. You need to have the other side of the wall. And if anybody has a total truth, so in that case, both might be peripheries. And what we try to do as cooperation projects here, it's to gather together as much voices, perspectives, way of thinking, and we bet a lot to mobility in order to bring our people to talk about that same subject from his point of view and many other points of view. I think that would be the
I would like to add to that it's I mean, we cannot deny that the major cultural events happen pretty much in Europe, and usually people from South America are tending to come to Europe, you know, as this American or European dream of making it in the first world. But I think the only way to, and it's something that I felt during the pandemic, the only way to actually start doing big things and not feeling peripheric is to start talking to each other. I mean, we don't really talk to our neighbors, to our country neighbors, and we're usually tending to see outside, either to Asia now, you know, with all this Korean scene or also Japanese, and we're not taking advantage that we all speak the same language. So it's way easier to join as a bloc or to tour around our own countries, and we can be way more powerful and understand our neighbors way better.
About that, Milena, almost at the end of her exposition, said integrate knowledge coming from South or marginal borders. So it's kind of listening to this. Maria, would you like to add something? Sorry, because with Zoom it's sometimes more difficult, but if you want to add something, don't hesitate to interrupt us and unmute your microphone and add anything you need or you want. I think we can. I think you are mute.
I think she's mute.
Now, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to add something that Juan Pablo and Diego just mentioned, that it's what I mentioned before as well, that it's the problem of cultural participation here for migrants as peripheral cultural proposal, right? I'm sorry, I'm very nervous and I just can't speak very well, but what we are focused on right now is that we want to we all know that in recent decades the cultural policy is been focused on facilitating access to culture to people, right? But today we are convinced that we need to work on promoting active participation of these communities in particular. And we want people who have been excluded from the cultural system, call them migrants, women, dissident identities, people from dissident identities. So we want them to get the necessary tools to make their own cultural contributions to the society in order to participate actively in the cultural system. I think it's very important to speak from our place and to propose the subjects that we are interested in disseminate, no? We are talking about migrations, but why not talk about other subjects about from people who have been excluded, right? I'm sorry, I'm just getting very confused.
Maria, actually, they are telling them us that we're running out of time. I really wanted for you to have a moment to add any questions. I'm not sure if anyone has something that really want to share, and we have this minute. If not, we have the coffee break moment that we can use, but anyway, they take the mic. So if anyone would like to share, in the meantime, I'd like to highlight these sentences that Milena has shared, and also Diego, about the culture of care, culture of hospitality, culture of solidarity. I really think it's the way, so I really wanted to highlight these ideas. Is anyone wanted to add something?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for all your interventions. I would like to pick up on Conectat, and I'm probably not saying it right, from the several projects that Maria has presented. And I was wondering all throughout her presentations, and there are several projects I would love to detail, to go into more detail, but we can't. But when is it that we can stop thinking about artistic production coming from the margins? In this case, you are working with migrants from the global south, as artistic production per se, and not as a niche of production coming from a specific community, because it appears that we can only allow a real space to debate whatever is being done outside the art market that is established as an art market by attributing a specific category to it. And it is, even though remarkable, and I'm not criticizing her work at all, I think I'm just observing that's where we stand at this point in time. I don't know, just sharing this. It's more of a comment, but if you would like to say something about it, you will.
Sure. I'm not sure if Maria could listen well because of the Zoom connection on the microphone. I think I could see her face, but thank you anyway for the comment, and I'm sure you can all find more information and debate on the Conectat's website about this. Just to add a final thought, a final wish that you would like to share. Is there anything?
Well, just say that spaces like this one are a really good scenario and to connect more than, I mean, because usually we do cooperation and we tend to do cooperation among countries in a diplomacy way, working through the embassies or working through the more, let's say, the more national institutions.
Mm-hmm.
But spaces like this allow us to work with people directly, not necessarily from government institutions. And this is another way of cooperation, which I think we should keep on improving and not get stuck just on budget or on financing. There's other ways of cooperations we can do. We can do them online, as we were seeing today.
Thank you. If you want.
I would just say that we didn't have enough time to talk about networks, but I think they are really useful in some way to protect and enhance some of the things we have said here. So I just say that I mean, like a final comment, probably that asymmetry between the global north and global south, they do, as we can see, represent a big challenge. But I also think that gives a huge dimension and a huge meaning and importance to our work in cultural cooperation, and that must make us feel that we're doing something very important and there's a lot to do.
Thank you. Maria, I don't know if you want to add anything to close this first session. While she unmutes herself, Milena said, our voice have to be heard. I would like to share this from her.
you hear me?
Yes, Maria.
No, I just wanted to thank you for inviting us and for putting these subjects on the table. I think, as Diego just said, it's something that we should think about and continue to discuss and learning and continue to talk about. So thank you very much for this space, and thank you, Diego.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you all.
We have a coffee break moment now, not half an hour, which was the idea, will be shorter because time is just going on. For safety reasons, we are giving you a bag of paper. Inside the bag, you will find different things. And the idea is to go to the cart, which is in front of the door in the open air, so we can eat there. So I'm sorry to say that finally we decided not to give hot drinks because it was really difficult. So we decided this time we won't be so good host because we are not giving you coffee or tea and so on, but you will have apples, bananas, and many other things, and water, and your bag. And please remember to later go and put the bag in the garbage. So please try to be here at 5:05 sharp. You only have 20 minutes. It's nothing. The toilets, there is a small toilet here, and there are more toilets, much bigger toilet area in the bar area. In the other side of the court, there is you go downstairs, and there is a lot of toilets there in the front of the bar.
Welcome back. Let me introduce myself first. I am Montserrat Pareja. I am gonna have the pleasure to moderate this session. I am the director of the Cultural Management Master here at the University of Barcelona. I am part of the Lluís Bonet team. I do have lots of research on peripheral cities, peripheral neighborhoods, peripheral let's say, expressions. And I am so pleased that I have the chance to moderate the discussion, the conversation that we are going to have in 2 minutes. For everybody to know where we are, I think that we are rowing against the stream. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. It's a very Spanish expression. So we are rowing and the stream goes against us. So on the first session, we were looking at, let's say, geographical peripheries, although we already realized that there were peripheries within the peripheries themselves, and this is a very interesting aspect. In this session, we are going to focus on a different kind of periphery. I think that our approach would be to see mainstream aspects and how we can be part of the world without being mainstream. And this is a very general way of approaching the topic of the session today. But I hope that you understand that it is not, I mean, let's have as an example, the publishing sector. It is not the same being a large company, a large publisher with lots of resources, with lots of capacities and skills to be part of the mainstream. I don't want to say market because it's not exactly that. But then we know that there are an immense amount of diverse initiatives that are in the same, let's say, world, and they are able to work together and to be together with these large players. So I don't want to say that we're going to talk about economics because we are not. But we are going to look at different sectors, and I have the immense pleasure to have 3 different speakers from 3 different, very different backgrounds. We will organize the session in a different way from the first. They will talk about themselves very briefly. I asked them to talk just 3-4 minutes about who they are, what they do, where do they come from, where do they want to go. And then we will have some questions and we will start the conversation. And my hope is that we will have some time for questions from the audience. So please, if you have something in your mind, write it down, and there will be time, hopefully, for you to express yourselves. So thank you for your attention during this session, and I would like to invite the 3 speakers to talk about themselves, to let us know who they are, from which sector they come, from which country. And I would like to start with Kika. Please. Put the microphone next to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
I would like to thank the University of Barcelona for the invitation. It's really exciting to be here. I'm really happy to be here and see my friends from Southern Peripheries. My name is Kika Kyriakakou. I'm a PhD candidate from the University of Athens, and I'm also the artistic director of Polyeco Contemporary Art Initiative. PCI is a cultural non-profit organization that was established in Greece by Polyeco and Polygreen Group of environmental companies. It was established in 2014. And our primary aim is raising environmental awareness through an annual program of exhibitions, conferences, workshops, and events. Our genuine belief is that art is the best tool to stimulate dialogue on climate crisis. And this belief was complemented by the wish to share this assumption with artists, local community stakeholders, and the general public. Since our establishment, since 2014, we have been implementing our objectives through 3 areas of activities. The first area is our art collection, our constantly developing art collection. The second one is the contemporary art projects we produce. And the last one is the support we provide to other artistic initiatives. Regarding our collection, let me simply say that It's mainly based on special commissions and acquisitions of contemporary art. During commissions, we provide mid-career and emerging artists with the means and resources to create an artwork inspired by urgent environmental issues in their broader relation to current social, economic, and philosophical concerns. The collection invites artists to reflect on the topic on environmental crisis in a free and innovative way. We create art that challenges the limits of previous views and representations, and we invite the artists to imagine new forms and use radical tactics while addressing our changing world. In 2019, we launched our first Artist in Residence program, focusing on the interaction between contemporary art, science, and environmental consciousness. During the pandemic, we organized our first digital group exhibition on the Anthropocene with new commissions, and we launched a series of partnerships and co-productions with international institutions, including KW Berlin, Serpentine Galleries in London, and the Sao Paulo Biennale. Regarding PCI projects now, we actually include in there all the cultural activities and events organized annually within the organization's foundational aid. This includes artist residencies, special commissions, talks, conferences, publications, educational programs, and workshops. These activities develop beyond the collection, yet are often in dialogue with issues raised through its content and concerns. We have developed a series of educational programs, and these programs have been traveling a lot in the periphery as well. Regarding now the support that we provide, this is not only financial support, but this can be support that we offer to other institutions in the spirit of circular economy. This includes lending equipment. This includes offering our infrastructure and our technical equipment as well to other partners. On these occasions, we have worked with various exhibitions, artists, and initiatives, expanding environmental productions and programs. Finally, it is very important for us, and it is part of our main priorities, to work with socially and geographically disconnected and disadvantaged communities, artists, and audiences. For instance, we've been producing various projects in the periphery, empowering art production and environmental awareness. We have also worked with children and members of the Roma community in Greece on the occasion of our latest VR co-production, a work that will be presented in the Venice Biennale this year. Finally, creating creative synergies, strategic collaborations, and community engagement constitute an integral part of our mission statement. And this, we believe, is going to be an answer of many of the questions that will be raised here today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kika. It's nice to have you from Greece. It's nice to have this example of using culture to tackle some of the climate change challenges, and also to consider not only, where are you based? In Athens? Are you in Athens?
We are in Piraeus.
In Piraeus, in the port. Yeah, okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I would like to, yes, I would like to give the floor to Diana, please.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I will speak a few words in Catalan to promote cultural diversity from a linguistic point of view. Moltes gràcies als organitzadors i gràcies també a la Montserrat per moderar aquesta taula, i em presento, no? És una mica estrany, però bon dia a tothom. So I'm switching on into English again. And I'm an ICRA research professor and an university starting grant working at the Internet Interdisciplinary Institute at the Open University of Catalonia. And I'm also the coordinator of the Global Literary Studies Research Lab that I'm going to present briefly. The Global Literary Studies Research Lab analyzes literary history, translation history, and cinema history from a global, bicentered, and interdisciplinary perspective. Within a gender, ethical, and digital perspective, the group pursues 5 main objectives. First, to review existing theoretical frameworks dealing with the notion of the global and other related notions such as cosmopolitanism, globalization, or international. And we also are interested in other units of analysis beyond the nation, such as cities, regions, rivers, seas, and oceans. Second, we help consolidate the emerging global studies literary field by featuring the discipline with 5 key concepts: space, scale, time, connectivity, and agency. And we also promote a global study of literature with other disciplines such as film histories or computer science. Third, we contribute to the analysis of literary and cultural processes, places, and actors at a local and global scale, using case studies that are based on the idea of movement, displacement, and connectivity, and on the discovery of voices that have not been sufficiently heard. And we have used the word cultural mediators for this. Fourth, we contribute to the advancement of the global study of literature and film histories using micro and microhistorical analysis and computational tools within a digital humanities framework that applies critically humanities computing. And finally, we balance inequalities in the production of knowledge by promoting open access research, data mining, and data-driven approaches in Southern Europe and the Global South, and further discussion regarding gender and race. So in the framework of this group, we have 4 research lines: global translation prose, the global novel, global literary environments, and also global cinema. And we promote theses or research, such as, for example, the analysis of Georgian literature at a local and a global scale. And I have a PhD student, Anna Virkashvili, who is now in Berkeley with a Fulbright fellowship, which means that the Fulbright program also recognizes the analysis on the peripheries. And also Elizabeth Carbot here, who works on the translation policy of a very European and French institution, the Intellectual Institute of Intellectual Cooperation, to say it quickly, the former UNESCO. And she also focuses on the participation of Latin American cultural mediators in these networks, and a bit on the national committees of all these committees related to this institution. In the framework of the project, we also have an ERC project that it's called the Social Networks of the Past, mapping Hispanic and Lusophone literary modernities between 1898 and 1959. And the main aim of this project, and in the framework of the group that I was mentioning before, is to break with this idea that, if some of you maybe have heard me before, to break with this idea of innovative centers and imitative peripheries. So we try to map all the connections of a sample of cultural mediators, Hispanic and Lusophone, and we try to break with this idea that we have been taught. And I will finish with a bit of self-promotion of our work. So I would like to highlight a paper published in the Journal of Global History. It's a special issue on the notion of the global that was called Historizing the Notion of the Global in different fields: history, sociology, literature, and also anthropology in 2019. And a book that we will publish with Elizabeth in the Greuter with the title Culture as Soft Power, Bridging Cultural Relations, Intellectual Cooperation, and Cultural Diplomacy. So we also try to push forward the discussion on what she was saying in the beginning, that in the peripheries, there are many peripheries, and I will talk about this a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Diana. Very interesting that we first heard about sustainability as something that was covering some of the activities of Kika. And now, besides all the idea of the language and literature and cinema, you were mentioning digitalization in a way. And this is interesting because we do have some transversal challenges that cross somehow some of the practices that we have here in the table. Last but not least, Esteban, I would like to invite you to tell us about your work.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Esteban Marin. I'm from a Contorno Urbano Foundation. We are a small nonprofit in L'Hospitalet de Llobregat. I am a graffiti writer. I started to paint graffiti 20 years ago. And this led me to work in appropriation of public space and how the communities can appropriate this public space. So from here, I go to cultural management, and now we are working in a project in a periphery, inside a periphery. We can talk about this in this table, in L'Hospitalet, a project about cultural democratization and cultural democracy with migrant communities in a really complex territory. So we are working there in this area. So my area right now is urban regeneration. I come from graffiti, but right now we are more like activating the public space, urban regeneration, and this kind of discussion. We are moving in this area.
Thank you. Sustainability, digitalization, you are talking about urban regeneration, which are, I think, are important aspects to take into account when we look at how we deal with these peripheral aspects of cultural expression. So we do have some questions, and I would like to start by asking maybe Diana first, what she thinks about this idea of, because she started by expressing herself in Catalan, which we do have lots of in our master, not discussions, but we struggle on how to respect the difference and how to respect, let's call them minority languages. So I thank her for do that. But I would like to ask her, when we are in general in worlds that are somehow dominated by large companies, by large, as I was saying before, this mainstream, how is it possible to penetrate with different ideas and with different ways of approaching whatever the topic? I mean, not only about literature, which is your or language, but how do you see that? How it is possible to combine small initiatives or initiatives that are dealing with minorities or peripheries, or even peripheries within peripheries, the peripheries, exactly. Oh my God. So I would like to ask you, what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, okay. Well, I will talk from the perspective of books, and publishing. So I would say that first we have to be aware that peripheries in the peripheries exist. So before, we had this, our colleagues from Mexico, Colombia, Chile, but of course we have Bolivia, Paraguay, other countries in Latin America that they are not heard. And in the countries we have Buenos Aires, but we have other cities, in Patagonia, Cordoba, that they are smaller too, and they have a very alive cultural scene. So first awareness, I would say, and then, for example, there are other initiatives that can help us. In the case of books, maybe you are aware that in the last few years in Barcelona and also in many cities, many bookstores appeared. We have like a growing tendency. And of course, these libraries, to go to a library and to talk to the librarian, can offer an experience that Amazon cannot offer. So Amazon is a big, huge e-commerce company, but if we want to experience the human dynamic, or to have a better experience, we should go to the library. So now with COVID or climate change, I think that we are experiencing the value of the local, and how locality and how local experiences can give us other insights about any cultural expression. So I'm focusing on books, but this could be applied to other sectors. And in a similar vein, the rise of small and independent publishers in the last few years here in Catalonia and Spain, but also in Latin America, show also that readers and consumers can be also interested by other publishing catalogs beyond the commercial ones, let's say Planeta, Random House. So these small and independent publishing houses are playing a very important role. And the last thing I would like to mention, maybe it's the responsibility of the consumer. We have to be aware of what sort of culture we want to experience in the future and in our present. And this means also to think about the economical model that there is behind the current cultural experiences that we are receiving, and maybe how we want to relate to our own culture and to other cultures, to our minority cultures. So yeah, maybe this is something that we have to be aware of and be responsible and take a role also in this.
Absolutely, very, very much aware of what kind of culture do we want to communicate, or do we want to sell somehow, no? Kika, what do you think about that? What is your feeling from Piraeus in Greece? How how do you see this possibility? You are dealing with something which is definitely global, which is tackling sustainability, climate change, all these kind of things. I wonder how do you do that? How do you compete, if I may use that word, with other, let's say, trends that go against that? How can culture be used and your experiences in order to combat somehow the mainstream or the general trend?
Well, it's not as if we're not interested in other trends. We're not interested in other in tackling other issues as well, in combination to sustainability and to climate crisis, which is, we can all understand it's emergency. But the fact is that we are a periphery. We've been functioning as a periphery for many years now. Not just Piraeus or Athens, but also Greece. So for instance, something very interesting that I read quite recently was that the last few years, Greece has been functioning in the shadow of the Acropolis. The cultural sector in Greece has been functioning in the shadow of the Acropolis. And the meaning of that is that we have a very strong cultural heritage that goes against the contemporary art scene. So this is something that we have to sort of tackle as an issue. All cultural managers or art practitioners that function in the visual arts field have to tackle that, because the state or the whole system has been focusing on the classical, let's say, heritage. So this also creates a sort of periphery, let's say, a local periphery, mind you, but this is an issue that the cultural, the contemporary art scene and the artists in Greece have to face. Additionally, we don't have to face other geographical, let's say, issues like the north or the south, but we believe that there are certain a group of or minorities or people that are definitely marginalized that we have to face on a daily basis, topics like that. And there are a lot of grassroots organizations. There are a lot of artist-run spaces that are self-funded at the moment. So this is an issue. The financial topic is a major issue for organizations like that. The state, of course, is there. There are a lot of private run funds at the moment that sort of tackle the financial issues that independent organizations have been facing all these years. But again, I would like to state that it's not only an issue of locality or of geography.
Well, Kika, this is really
it's a long
interesting.
discussion, actually.
Yeah.
Very old
well,
one.
you opened the Pandora box, I would say, because you were mentioning something that I think it's interesting, and I will go to you, Esteban, in a minute, which is about the profitability. No, we know that we live in a neoliberal wave, and that things that are profitable are welcome, and especially this is combined with the diminishing role of the state. So my question somehow is, or my thinking is about, okay, so are we leaving all these maybe not economically profitable initiatives into the hands of independent expressions or independent companies or organizations, because the state is not interested anymore, and because somebody has to take care of that, no? And related to that, I would like to talk to Esteban about your role, because if you are in the periphery of the periphery in L'Hospitalet, how come? What kind of support do you have from the municipality? Do you consider yourself like a peripheral cultural expression, or it is more a peripheral cultural expression supported by the municipality, because otherwise nobody would do that? What do you think?
A little bit of both at the same time, because yeah, of course, we have the support of the municipality, at least in, I don't know, maybe 50% of our budget right now, but the other 50% is not the local municipality, it's maybe an amalgam of other municipalities or private subventions, donators, and yeah, and self-organization, self-financing, etc. For me, I think this, at least in our experience, the key is for try to find new ways to self-organize. I speak for in the perspective of the ultra-local project. We are not taking these global challenges. At least we are talking in our community.
Yeah.
But
social inclusion is a global challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And but these new ways of organization, of sharing the knowledge, and this kind of, we consider ourselves more like an institution because we are really disgregated in work groups and circles of participation in different areas. So we are trying to build more sustainability, cultural sustainability, social, economical, and environmental sustainability in the neighborhood. And it's really difficult also in this COVID climate, and all this project. But for me, it's all about awakening the auto-responsibility and co-responsibility within the community in any of these aspects.
This is very interesting because this idea of self-responsibility and the just like rethinking values and rethinking why do we do what we do, which is behind our ideas as cultural managers or as people involved in the cultural sector. Now, this is something that is going on very much these days because somehow the pandemic, as Diana very well was saying, has accelerated the need to rethink where are we going, how are we going things, and I think that this is extremely interesting. I would like to shift a little bit the focus of the discussion towards something that I think it's very common, which is the idea of collaboration, of networking, of you mentioned the idea of exchanging knowledge. I would like to know, and I will start with you, Kika, what kind of, because you already mentioned that you work with other institutions and organizations. What do you benefit from when you do this kind of activity? How this collaboration is possible? Is let's say, since we are peripheries or since we are independent organization, it's better if we work together, or because otherwise we wouldn't survive. How do you work? How important are these collaborations? And again, is it possible to collaborate with large organizations or large initiatives, or it is more a more, let's say, micro experimental or detailed expression or activity?
Well, our experience has proved to us that it is important to partner with organizations and institutions within the periphery and outside the periphery. I mean, we worked in the past with major institutions, and I can tell you that it hasn't been that difficult to approach them as long as the right proposal or the right content was out there. So we definitely benefited from that. You're able to co-produce projects, to invite people and to present exhibitions, for instance, in our cases, and to create a dialogue to broader networks than just your own. But also it has been quite important for us to work within the peripheries, and not just the Greek periphery, but also peripheries in other countries as well. And trying also to empower particular communities, and also to envision along with them their projects and what they've been struggling, to put out there all these years. It has been a core part of what we've been doing the last few years. So yes, I can conclude by saying that we've definitely benefited out of it.
Thank you, Kika. Very interesting. Diana, since you are a representative, let's say, of the publishing or literature or language side, I don't know if you know, because it's not very well known, unfortunately, that we are in Barcelona, the UNESCO city of the literature. And that was a very good example of collaboration, I think, and trying to work together, big corporations or large organizations with also small initiatives. And I think that it was a very when the idea was somehow thought and designed, the idea of collaboration was extremely important. In fact, and you mentioned already that, but I would like you to go a little bit deeper on this idea. After the pandemics, or even during the pandemics, Barcelona has seen the flourishing of new bookshops, of new initiatives related to literature and to. So I would like to know your feelings and your thoughts on that idea, Diana. What do you think about this collaboration in between different actors that are maybe in the same sector, but also in other sectors?
Okay, so in our case, as we are a research group, so our collaboration is, of course, within the academia with other colleagues, but also we have tried to collaborate with national libraries, and this is a very important collaboration because national libraries, we can take advantage of their catalogs, and this is something that they didn't do. It was only just for consulting all the titles. So we have collaborated with them, and also in the case of UNESCO, we are trying to establish also an agreement with the UNESCO so that we can benefit of the digitization that they already did, and we are working on data sharing. So this is something that we can do for shedding light on the peripheries, in this case through the work of Elizabeth. So this we have been trying to establish different collaborations, and of course in the case of the city, there are also networks of librarians, as I was mentioning before, and they have been trying to establish solidarities between them so that they can also propose. But I have to say that they are also different among them. For example, in the case of Finestras, the bookstore in Barcelona, and also Calamo in Zaragoza, they are maybe more aware about cultural diversity, and for example, they target many Latin American authors, but this is not the case of all libraries. And other libraries, they only target Spanish authors. So that would be another discussion that maybe we can take a bit further.
Thank you very much. I would like to know your thoughts, Esteban. I just listening to Kika and Diana, I thought that sometimes we all say that networking, collaboration is essential for the future of cultural expression. But I would like to know which are the difficulties. How come that not everybody is trying to work together? Which are the barriers to this collaboration? Is it a question of money? Is it a question of resources? I don't know, Esteban, if you have okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For us, at least in our project, we recuperate empty lot in our neighborhood, and we build a cultural center, a small cultural center. So for doing this, we need to establish a local network of partners. The local network is, at least for us, natural or easy, or because it's the way that we see everything that we do. But when we need to escalate up a little, it's more difficult, of course. Sometimes maybe it's about the money or the resources, because if I'm trying to survive with my budget, I can put too many hours in cultural international projects of cooperation, because I don't have the time usually, because all my hours and money and resources I usually put in the project and in the community. So for me, it's difficult to try to find this time to create these alliances. At least in national level is maybe easier, but international level it's difficult, at least for us.
I would like to, I don't know, Kika and Diana, just interrupt me, because I'm just trying to hit on the debate. But I wonder if the willingness to collaborate, we would say that maybe bottom-up initiatives are much more in the position of looking for collaboration rather than top-down, let's say, policies or strategies. I mean, they do have more considerations. Sometimes it's much more difficult for them. or maybe not. I mean, probably, I don't know up to what extent UNESCO is, which is an international institution, it's willing to collaborate and it's open to any kind of initiative or idea that may come. So I would like to know, do you think that this collaboration works well? It's easy? I would like to know your opinion. What do you think? Diana, come on.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understood the question. So you mean, can you say again? Because I'm not sure if I
my
understood.
question is basically, which are the barriers for collaboration? I mean, and what do you think is the willingness to collaborate by these large institutions or by these organizations? Are they willing? Are they recognizing the difference? Are they opening up to peripheral initiatives?
Okay, of course, my perspective is the one of a researcher, so I can talk from academia. But in the case of UNESCO or in the case of national libraries, I think that first of all, there is maybe a lack of practice. Researchers, they don't work with librarians. They just go to use their materials, but there is not collaborative work to generate knowledge of what they have. And in the case of UNESCO, a bit the same. So now we have been trying to show them that, of course, we can offer a lot of research and of knowledge, but also digital tools that can be useful for them. And they need to see that this is useful too. And in other countries, there is also a lack of infrastructure. And this is the case of Latin America. Every time that we try to write to them and say, we need to use your data and we need to do data mining, machine learning. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but data-driven approaches. So of course, they don't have the infrastructure to do this. Their catalogs are not prepared for data sharing. And in the case of Colombia, I remember that they just send us a Word file of all the titles that they have in the catalog. So I cannot do anything with this, or the same with some PDF. So there is a lack of infrastructure, and this is another concern that maybe many countries, of course, especially in southern countries or in the Spanish-speaking world, we still lack of standards, protocols, and a good structure for collaboration and skills training in the case of researchers.
But I think that what you said is very, very important, because this lack of practice, to collaborate, which we live in an individualistic world, and every now and then we are just forced to look at what we are doing and how we can benefit from our doing. And I think that I'm talking a little bit exaggerating the situation, but it's true that we do lack the skill to understand that we can benefit from the knowledge of the other. And as you said, sometimes it's something as clear as we do have the knowledge, maybe you might have the resources. Why don't we extend? I would like to ask.
And just 10 seconds, if you let me add something that I just came to my mind. Another potential collaboration is with large companies like Google, for example. Now, in our case, I wrote a few years ago to Google Books in Spain, and they didn't want to collaborate because I wanted to know how many books in Spanish have been digitized. Because, of course, as you all know, most books have been digitized from English, but we don't know about other languages. And so, yeah, this is another barrier in this case, because their practice is quite obscure, let's say like this.
That's very interesting, that point. Kika, what do you think about this possible collaboration with, what is the most difficult thing when you are trying to establish a partnership or a consortium in all your experience? I mean, from a very, let's say, practical experience, no? So what is the most difficult part?
Starting with the example of UNESCO, for instance, when in Athens in 2019, the city was the literature capital of UNESCO. Our feedback is quite positive. I mean, at the time, they produced a series of projects and they were quite open to collaborations, even to independent curators. And they sort of funded or co-produced major projects in Athens. So regarding other projects that we have co-produced or other major players, let's say, that we have approached since then. We've been quite fortunate to manage to produce projects that always focus on the environment and always have the impact, the successful impact that we have wanted to throughout the years. For me, a major example of what, let's say, smaller players can accomplish is the recent example of the Ruru Indonesian artist community. It is an artist team based in Indonesia and in Jakarta, actually. And they have been selected by Documenta 15 as the curators. So I believe that even major players like Documenta have been actually acknowledging the fact that small artistic teams, but with an impact, are very important and they can function as key players. And what the Ruru team is actually going to implement now in Documenta is how partnership models can function in the art ecosystem. This is an important example for me, and this is something I would like to watch. And I believe that it also is an answer on whether there can be successful partnership among major leaders and smaller players.
A very good example. This is not mine. Esteban, contorno urbano. Do you work with other organizations that are very much into the scene? I know people that are doing similar things as you do. And do you exchange knowledge? Do you meet? Do you do projects together? And again, and because you are probably the one touching the object of the study, I mean, you are with people, you are feeling those that are probably the object of many initiatives, whatever the initiative is. I would like to know a little bit more about that. How do you work with other organizations doing the same? And how do those that are receiving this kind of initiative or expression that you do, how do they receive your activity?
In a more national level and international level, we are starting just a few months international Ibero-American network of urban artists. It's like really new. It's just starting. This is more around urban art and organization, artists and organizations than do it. It's based in mostly agents from Spain and Portugal, but a lot of artists and other agents from Latin America. We are starting this network and starting having this conversation. It's not officially launched, but we have a lot of meetings, so it's going well. And in a local level, there is not so many organizations that do that we do in Barcelona area, at least. Urban art, there is another 2 or 3, and urban regeneration or self-construction, we have some more examples, and we usually invite them to work with us. For example, we have this local organization here in Barcelona is really referent, Maquia Tu Vida. I don't know if you know them. It's a self-construct participation. They are really great. So we want to learn from them. So we invite them to make a project, a co-production with us and with the community. So we establish this kind of links practically in the practice.
Very interesting. I do know, I am trying to remember, it's recetas urbanas, I think.
Exactly. We have some recetas uploaded to this website. Yeah.
Your work reminded me too.
Another thing about cooperation on other barriers, usually in the public administration, at least in a local level, there is this thing, the departments, they don't work together. It's like you want to make a project with, I don't know, culture and education at the same time, and they are like, no, we don't work with education in the Department of Culture. We don't work with them. So, and in the same building sometimes. It's really difficult to establish this kind of transversal projects in a municipality if they don't work together when they are maybe 3 tables in the same.
Same floor, different departments. I know the feeling. If I may, probably Diana, she comes from the academia as I do. And I hope that you don't share my feeling, but because that would be that you are more successful than I am. But it is sometimes so difficult to work together from different disciplines in the academia, which is comparable to how difficult it is to put together different departments in the municipality, social department, the cultural department, and the economic department, and saying, we do have the same challenge, let's work together, and I know the feeling, and I do have very, very, very interesting experiences on this difficulty. I don't know, and this is a sort of in brackets, how do you feel, Diana, about this difficulty? Because, you know, I think that literature or language or publishing or books or this is something which is very transversal. So it is, I don't know how difficult it is to work with other people from other disciplines, with sociologists, with anthropologists, with, this is not in the, in the outline, but
Yeah,
I would like to know your feelings.
I think sometimes it's difficult to know about what others are doing. Like in this case, I was not aware of this project, and I've been working on already for a few years about center and periphery. This is at the core of my research, and I was not aware of your work, so I'm very happy to be here. But in the case of interdisciplinarity, I work at the Internet Interdisciplinary Institute, and my experience is, I think it's great.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
And
I'm happy to
I
hear
don't
that.
know, Elizabeth, what's your opinion? But we are translation historians, literary historians, sociologists, film historians, data scientists.
Good.
And maybe the main challenge is to talk, to establish a dialogue between us, to establish a dialogue between us, and to understand the language of the other. So for some time, I tried myself to learn coding, and I did some Python and R stuff, very complicated, until I realized that that was not my role, but it was my role to understand, to talk to them, to be able to make the right questions so that they could do the job, the data scientists, not mine. So that's the challenge of interdisciplinarity, to be able to communicate. And you don't.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is the idea, but that works everywhere. No, the idea of creating a common language, no, that we understand each other because we are both speaking the same language. And I'm not talking about English or Spanish or Catalan. No, it's understanding each other. I totally agree. This is essential. I would like to open the floor. So I would like to go to one of the last ideas that I thought could be interesting to debate or to discuss or to have a conversation about, which is, let's go into the detail, no? Let's go to experiences. And may I say that we are in a project, as Diana was saying, which is called Towards Fairer Cultural International Cooperation, Visions from the Peripheries. No? So I think and I believe that this category of global south and global north, we do have peripheries in both sides, in the global north and in the global south. Peripheries are everywhere, and I think that this has been clear. We have already mentioned that there are even peripheries within the periphery. So, but the start of the sentence of the title of this project is Towards a Fairer Cultural International Cooperation, fairer. And I would like to connect that with the experiences that I would like you to share with us, no? Particular cases, particular examples where you've been able to, you know, somehow break these established hierarchies, these established channels of not only communication, of production, of interaction. So how is it possible to reach this fertile soil that is there, and we somehow need to make it flourish? So I would like to know, Kika, your ideas about particular experiences or on that.
Yes, of course. Well, I believe that values like solidarity or inclusivity that we've been hearing a lot the last few years. Accessibility and diversity should not simply be topics that we simply tick in a box when we actually design our programs. I think that it is very important for us to include these values in our organizational DNA. They should be throughout, they should be part of our practice. Since these words, unfortunately, have also become trends the last few years, and we've been hearing them a lot. We should definitely be more cautious when we approach all these notions. For us, regarding hierarchies now, and answering your question, it has been quite challenging, to tell you the truth. We've managed, though, throughout the years to produce projects that have been quite successful, if I may say, that we have managed to break certain boundaries, and that had great impact in the art community. Projects that not necessarily had been, large productions or that received great funding, but they definitely had a content to present. Just an exhibition that comes to my mind is a project that we presented actually under the auspices of UNESCO in 2019. That the topic at the time was rooms and solidarity, just before the pandemic, which was a bit prophetic as well. And it was, sorry, not solidarity, isolation. So it was an exhibition actually that had to do a lot with private space in relation to public space and the periphery in a way. So at the time, although it was an exhibition with limited budget, we managed to have visual arts participating in the project like Jonas Mekas and writers like Sylvain Lotringer. It definitely received great good reviews. The feedback that we also got from the artists and the people that attended the event was quite good as well. We've also quite recently become, we have become nominators in the Earthshot Prize, which is also a sort of acknowledgement of what we've been trying to do all this year related to environmental awareness and sustainability. So this is something quite important for us, as we are going to be able to nominate and suggest environmental initiatives and researchers that are interested in receiving support through the Earthshot Prize Awards. So yes, there are many cases, I mean, that we have managed that, and
I think that from your intervention, there are two things that I would like to stress, because they are, in my opinion, very interesting. The first one, which is something that Milena already said, which is that sometimes it's not about measuring everything and trying to get the largest number. Sometimes it's not about that. A small impact is also important, no? And I think that this is, I mean, it's huge, the impact. It may be for one person, but that's more than enough. No? This is one thing. Let's try to avoid measuring everything in numbers. The second one is about gatekeepers. And you said that it was interesting to be awarded or to be nominated. And I would like to know, I would like to stress if this kind of gatekeeper, no, I mean, being nominated or being awarded or being recognized by a large institution or by a whoever, somehow this makes you less peripheral, and it makes you more, part of the system, because we know that, at least that's my feeling, that lots of initiatives, they are aiming to be recognized and to be localized and to be exposed to others, no? And probably that could be a way to move from being extremely peripheral to something that is not as peripheral as it could be. Anyway, that was my thought. Diana, what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, maybe just before replying, I would like to mention another term. This term is consecration.
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 Yeah,
Consecration.
yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So, and maybe this is related to what you were mentioning before, no? Regarding how we are recognized. So of course there are some channels that consecrate, no? And which are these channels? This is what we have to think. So in relation to the question about breaking hierarchies, in the case of literature and publishing, I would say that there are different agents that can contribute to this. The first one, and I will give you an example of each one very quickly. The first one is media. The second one are publishers, and specifically independent publishers and small publishers. They can break with these hierarchies. Then literary agents and prices. And I will give you very shortly one example of each. In the case of media, Babelia, you may all know, this is El País, and also La Vanguardia and ABC, Spanish journals. So the list of the books that they were highlighting in 2020 and 2021, they were all Spanish authors, any single Latin American writer, and we are the 10% of the Spanish-speaking population. So it's impossible to believe that the best books published in Spanish have been written in Spain. So this is some food for thought in relation to how we break with these hierarchies. So in Spain, we have still a lot to do in relation to Latin America. So the second example is about independent publishers. And I would like to highlight the work of a publisher who already passed away, Jaume Vallcorba and Acantilado. This is an independent publisher. And for example, Vallcorba published Imre Kertész, the Hungarian author, before he won the Nobel Prize. So of course, he was already breaking hierarchies because he was publishing a Hungarian author. He was translating a Hungarian author into Spanish. That according, I'm not going to go in depth with this, but according to some researchers, Spanish, even though it's a very much spoken language, is peripheral in terms of markets. No, let's see it like this. So Acantilado was publishing another peripheral author, Hungarian, who afterwards won the Nobel Prize. And now a more contemporary example, Rajbert, another publisher that you may know, Laura Huergas. She is the publisher, and she published Nguni Thiongo, an African author. He's a novelist and also a nonfiction author. And of course, this has to do with a post-colonial strategy that it's also very worth it and very valuable. So independent publishers can also break with these hierarchies. Then literary agents can also do it. There are many literary agents, but I would like to highlight maybe the example of a French one, Pierre Astier. He tried to find a balance between selling the rights of Anglo-American authors, but also authors from the Francophonie, let's say the Francophone world, not only France, but mainly Haiti or the Maghreb. And this is, of course, related to the colonial past. So this is also a way of promoting authors from the colonial past and from the Francophone world in a large sense. And my last example has to do with prices. Literary prices, they have nowadays a lot of power and they can consecrate, as I was saying before. So maybe you may remember, or maybe you're aware of the Man Booker International Prize for fiction in 2016 was awarded to The Vegetarian, a South Korean novel by Han Kang. And 3 years later, the best film at the Oscars prize was Parasite. I'm sure you have watched the film.
Yes.
So this is not a coincidence. There is a strategy led by the South Korean National Institute, like Ramon Llull in Barcelona, to promote South Korean culture abroad. And these literary international prizes, they also took advantage to promote cultural diversity, bibliodiversity in the case of books. So some examples of
very interesting
how we can
example.
break this hierarchy.
So it was not a coincidence. Now I see. Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you
it
very
was
much.
not a coincidence. no.
Esteban, what would be your examples, your special examples, breaking the hierarchy, breaking this mainstream?
Okay, so for me, maybe in international level, I really like some practices of urban artists around artivism that they are doing in the last maybe 5-7 years. There is some really good examples of urban artists that in a semi-independently make some big impact in the media or in the. You have this. I don't know if you see it. Ernest Zaharevic did a really big intervention in the Sumatra rainforest in I think those 2017 or 16.
If I may, the only urban artist that I very well know is Vansky.
Yeah. Okay. This is for
what is this periphery? Is this periphery?
It's a marketing platform.
Okay.
This is what it is. But the example is you see this non-authorized exposition that it's currently now in Barcelona.
Yes.
In fact, in the hub of design of Vansky, but previously it was in Madrid, in Paris, in Dubai, and everything. So no, it's the anti-periphery. It's the mainstream. Yeah, and okay. So the urban artist. Yeah, no. But
sorry for that.
no, because this is for goes for another 3 hours if you want.
Yeah.
No, but Ernest Zaharevic did this big intervention in the Sumatra forest, really interesting, and he brings some really representative and important urban artists. Some from Spain. We have Steve from Spain. He's a really famous artist from Valencia. You see the big Falla Mayor last year with the lady with the mask. Yeah, okay. Pues this is Steve, and they did a lot of projects there with the local community and trying to denounce the separation of the rainforest for palm oil, basically. So there is some artists right now, not Bansky only, of course, but doing this kind of international projects really, really interesting and starting to grow some base or some discourse, really interesting. And for me, in a local, ultra local level, that it's my area. The key is what we talked about earlier. It's about this non-horizontal organization, these small resistant cells that they call, that we can organize ourselves to try to find better and more sustainable solutions for global challenges, and how we can generate this knowledge. And the challenge maybe is how to share with other small organizations like ourselves, because this is for me the really difficult part. How these cells can connect. How can I connect with a project similar to mine in the outside of not Berlin but Salzburg? Why not? So it's difficult. This step for me is the key.
Well, thank you very much. And I would like to open the floor and of questions to the audience. And I would be very pleased if you want to ask our guests today. I don't know. You can just raise your hand. Any question? Anything? Yes? No? No? No. I'm just trying to fish somebody. No questions to our. So everybody's happy with the idea of peripheries and the establishment, and no way to break the ice on it. No?
Well, in case anyone is still thinking,
Come on,
I can,
Diana.
yeah, okay. Maybe another idea regarding peripheries. Can we talk about peripheries only from a geographical point of view? No, that would be maybe there are other scales. No, for example, in the case of the list of authors I was mentioning before that were highlighted by El País, La Vanguardia, or ABC, there were very little women. No, so this is another periphery. And in the case of Latin America, in the research we are doing, we work a lot on women, Latin American women, because they were the periphery of the periphery. So this is another maybe idea that I would like to bring to the floor and
In fact,
think about women, minorities, race, and of course, indigenous languages and literatures. It's not only about Spanish, neither in Latin America, here, other, yeah.
I think that we all can imagine, as you said about women, but I think that we can all imagine cultural expressions that are minorities and are not well accepted or not well recognized. That makes me go back to the graffiti man in our table, because when listening to you, I thought, okay, at one point, those that were doing graffiti in the walls, they were not even considered artists. They were some people dirtying, and that was a kind of, and this is also related to consecration, but there was a sort of professionalization of what they were doing and recognition. And I think that this is also an important aspect, not recognizing that what they are doing is something good or good for the community, good for the cultural expression itself. And I would like to know your as a graffiti person in the past, how do you see this evolution or this transformation from being something which is very, very peripheral, very, very minority, and I mean, now we can name lots of cities that have been using graffiti or murals to improve. I remember the case of Albania, Tirana. The mayor was on a sculpture, and when he came to the municipality, he realized that there was no money. But he said, but I have to do something in terms of improving the self-esteem of people, the identity, and because he was a sculptor, he was an artist, he designed, and Tirana nowadays is a place where people go and visit the place, how he ideate the painting of the walls. He didn't solve any problem, any facade, a structural problem, or sewage or whatever, no. It was just painting, but he was with that providing a lot of let's say self-respect, esteem, love for the buildings, for the inhabitants. So I just would like to know your feelings, your opinion on that.
Okay, so a few things about that. Right now, for the past 15 years or so, we have a lot of different art currents living in the street at the same time. You have the graffiti that remains pure. And when I talk about graffiti, I talk about only illegal graffiti, trains, street, and this is a subculture inside of a subculture, of course. And inside the graffiti, you have different levels. You have the train, you have the metro, you have the different levels of subculture. And it's a really close one. It's a culture really close one to the outsiders. If you see graffiti on the street, you usually don't understand. You see it like a hieroglyphic, because you can translate it. I always talk that I read Spanish, I read English, and I read graffiti also because it's like intranslatable. Yeah, and this is one thing. But in the last decades, you have urban art. That it's similar, but it's not the same. It shares some traits, but not the same. And the neo-muralism or the urban art and public art convergence. That it is this kind of big murals, public art doing all around the world, and they are doing sometimes more damage than well, because sometimes it's well intended, but when an artist paints in some community without the context, without any work with the community, without talking about the identity, about anything, sometimes cause, for me, it's worse that leave that wall maybe gray, because it's like this cheap public art trending, because he doesn't have the money for a sculpture, but he have money to pay an urban artist because it's cheaper. It's cheaper. And when you see that this kind of expression arrive to the municipalities, especially of small populations, you know that it's cheaper and the bar is being lowered year by year. So yeah, right now we are in like an stretch point in this thing because it's been really weaponized also. Yeah.
Very interesting. So I don't know if anybody thought in the meantime. If not, I just would like to ask, I just would like to ask one final word to the members of the panel. So we will start with Kika, continue with Diana, and finish with Esteban. Please, very briefly.
Well,
Something that could be the takeaway for them to remember forever.
Well, this is something that I indicate in the beginning as well. I believe that many solutions to what we've discussed today and what we're going also to discuss the forthcoming days lie behind the work of synergy and creative synergies. So not only synergies taking place within the peripheries, but also it is I believe that would be very, very important to be able to approach organizations in the center as well. So for us as an institution, this is a key element, and this is something that we've trying to implement through our program all this year.
Thank you. Diana.
Yeah, okay, so maybe just to complement a bit what it has been already said. In the case of books and literature, maybe I will tell you that there are some agents that are crucial. In this case, you have the multinational conglomerates, publishing companies like Planeta, Random House, and Penguin Random House or Hachette. And we need to struggle to these companies as readers so that we can include cultural diversity in our daily routine as consumers. And then we can have other like big agents that are contributing to this dominating world, like the book fairs that we haven't talked about them. Frankfurt, Bologna for children, Guadalajara in Mexico, but they are of course very important in the publishing industry, and they try to promote both the cultural diversity in terms of the UNESCO, the bibliodiversity, but also they try to promote economic benefits through commercial literature that we all know, and I won't give you names. And then just final words about other agents, and maybe you are less familiar with the literary agents, as I said before, but also scouts. Today they are very important, the scouts, and because they try to identify the main authors everywhere, worldwide, and also the co-agents and the literary prizes, as I said. So I will conclude with this, just like a very quick overview of the main agents in the publishing
Thank you very
field.
much. Esteban.
Okay, so for me, maybe the last remarks will be about emancipation also, because we need to try to capacitate the community and the participants of our activities to have the capacity of analyze, decide, and especially act to transform and make a positive impact in themselves and in their community. So for me, this is the key, and I will also say thanks to you and the rest of the table and the organization for having me.
I think that it was our pleasure somehow, because I think that this was a very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much for the possibility to listen to you and this conversation. Thanks to you all. Have a good evening. Be careful, stay safe, and see you tomorrow. Or no, the day after tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for all these presentations and the debate. So I think this first afternoon has been plenty of ideas. So I I think we are just going to dinner with much more yes, and enjoyment
An inspiration.
and inspiration for the next days. So tomorrow morning, we will start at 9 o'clock. So please try to be here really at 9, because I know it's not always easy, especially if we go late to bed, but because we, in any case, we finish quite early, I don't think it will be terribly difficult. So 9 o'clock here. As you know, just a little bit some logistic information. I will be the moderator of the first roundtable because Felix is ill with COVID, so things that happens. So he is not coming to Barcelona, he is at home. And Massimo, I hope he will be able to join us through Zoom. So that will be the changes of, last minute changes of tomorrow first roundtable. We will do the 2 roundtables with a coffee break in the middle. And we have prepared for the people coming for the from the project a bag for food, with food for going to Granollers. Also for the students, all of you will have your bag with food. We have 2 hours time from here to Granollers. It's much that needed, so it's more or less 1 hour the time needed, but I think it's good to have this time. My recommendation is go directly to Sandra Station, and in Sandra Stations take R2 train line. In any case, I will repeat this information tomorrow. It is in the welcome kit, so if any person have doubts, please ask us. And we will move to Granollers. We have this visit in my God, I'm so tired now. That Rocco e Humbert. And after that, we have the the breaking down session and the next session, and you can dinner in Granollers if you wish. We have some local people here in the room that can advise us the best places in Granollers. Granollers, by the way, used to be a very well-known local market with quite good restaurants. So it's not a bad place to stay. And of course, you can come back to Barcelona, where there's plenty of restaurants, of course. So that's just some logistics for tomorrow. I don't know if I'm losing any other important information. Clara has, I think, some important information for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Clara. You'll meet me tomorrow. But for now, I would just like to celebrate Alma's existence. So if you would all join me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alma. Happy birthday to you. She's a very important element in this project, and we are so fortunate that she spent her birthday with us. So thank you.
¿Ya poder? ¿Ya? ¿Ya?
Free time.
Sí, Javier Murals, uns amics. Sí, els de...